I want to begin by thanking you for coming out to spend a few minutes with us on the occasion of the launch of our book entitled Unions Matter. We're familiar with the traditional sort of arguments, the arguments that we grew up with, the idea of an 8-hour workday and a 40-hour work week, and the role that we played in Medicare and social programs. What we're trying to do is bring perhaps a more contemporary answer to that question of why unions matter. And the book that we're launching today is a result of the work that was done by the foundation when it pulled together an international conference in March of 2013.
One of our situations in Canada with the precarious workers, with temporary foreign workers. If anyone's followed the news in the last couple of weeks, you can know that this is a group of people who come to Canada simply to work, but they're being abused right, left, and center. And they're being abused by our government and the system in which they come in, and they're being abused by the employers that they work for. So unions play a large role, and many unions have played a large role in the assistance of organizing and getting collective agreements for temporary foreign workers and providing a pathway to permanent residencies.
What I think the book does so importantly is it stands as a very clear and direct counterpoint to this vision of what the Canadian economy and the Canadian labor market should be. In the years following the 2008 financial crisis, we've seen a real intensified attack on the rights of trade unions, on the standards of work, and on, as we read about in this book, conditions of equality.
My piece in the book is a defense of the Wagner Act. It talks about the ability to be able to create stable bargaining relationships, to create wide circles of representation, but it also talks about some of the innovations that have occurred in the last 20 to 30 years. The ability and the growth of human rights in Canadian society, particularly in the Canadian workplace, is largely a result of the strong commitment that unions backed by the Wagner Act have been able to give us, to be able to give human rights in our particular society.
The chapter I wrote about was advancing equality, about how unions have played such a significant role in promoting and securing human rights and equality for people of different races, for women, people with disabilities, sexual orientation, and how they did it in so many different ways, and not only for their own members, but also for all Canadians.
At the end of the day, without unions policing those environments, particularly for the most vulnerable, for migrant workers, nothing happens.
One of the difficulties in that coalition building is finding a language that binds us, that lets us understand the ways in which the problems we are all struggling with are common, that they have common themes, there's a common narrative there. So our chapter is about how to build that, how to use that language to build links so that people can see their common interests.
This notion of protection of labor rights, this notion that labor rights are human rights and deserve the full protection of the law of the land is an issue that has obviously occupied us and will continue to occupy us in the months and the years ahead.
We have to start changing the message, and hopefully with this book and other books like it, we can start changing the message, changing the conversation in Canada that unions matter, and we matter on more than just the level of local unions, but also the social and economic justice for Canadians as a whole. Thank you.